that is now the center of my life, immigration. I mean, this is what, the folks at the Chicago Council on Foreign Relations, which I guess you can't get much more elite than that, call the perfect policy storm, because no issue more divides the financial and political elite and the ordinary people in this country than immigration. And ordinary people get it, and the elites don't.
I'd like to toss a moral issue out of left field to you just to hear.
That's not fair. Look, you can't do that to me. This conversation's over. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's fun to talk to you. Anyway.
Just to hear the way you think a moral issue through that is social in its implications. So, what interest, if any, does our society have in channeling the way people express themselves sexually and consensually? So I'm not talking about rape, and I'm only talking about adults. But I'm just curious, how would you approach that issue, and where do you come out?
You mean over issues, I mean, in terms of how those issues would that be, say, in matters like gay marriage, or? That
would be one example.
Mm-hmm. Like, I have to tell you that I'm very torn about that. I don't really have an answer for you, because first of all, I have two dear friends of mine, women, who married a year ago. And I'm enormously fond of both of them. They've been in a committed relationship for 30 years. In terms of fidelity and decency, they've shown at least as much as one would expect to find in the best marriages between men and women, probably a lot more than in most cases. I see no harm in that. It also seems to me that, and I have wrestled with this a lot, because I grew up in my father was pretty homophobic, and I grew up in a I'm 60, so I grew up in a country that was pretty homophobic, and I was used to calling people faggots and all the rest of it. I sort of had to be slowly educated out of my homegrown suburban homophobia. There are parts of it that I can relate to more easily than others, so that there's a piece of me that says, if there is a God, then God creates people, and they're created as they are. Obviously no one becomes a homosexual. People are born that way. Obviously I think, anyone who believes you can be taught to be homosexual is an idiot. And so there's part of me that says, if that's the case, then, and if that person is a decent and good and upright and a person, why should that person be denied the opportunity to enter an institution like marriage? By the way, there's a wonderful New Yorker cartoon. I don't know if you saw it, when you see this husband and wife sitting on the couch, and it says like gay marriage approved, and he goes, and he says to his wife, goes, "You think those people would have suffered enough, But anyway, I'm divorced. I was married for 22 years. I've got two wonderful daughters. And yet I have to say to you that there's part of me that says it somehow is there's something lesser about it. And I can't help but say that. There's part of me that believes that creating children is one of the primary reasons why people marry. I'm always, when people marry and don't have children, I'm always a little puzzled. I certainly always wanted to have children, and I was delighted. So here maybe I'm revealing my true self. I was delighted that both of my daughters are heterosexual. One is now married. She's she's 29, one is 23, and has been living with her boyfriend, who's a lovely guy, and all the signs are that they will, there's a shidduch there, and I will be very happy because I'm extremely fond of him. In both cases, the young men are Jewish. That also matters a lot to me. And yeah, I mean, I was, I was around during the whole time when AIDS went, through the ceiling, and there was something I found personally dreadful about the kind of promiscuous male, particularly male gay activity that was rife at that time. It struck me as something which was really a kind of desecration of the basic dignity of the human being to to permit that kind of thing, to let oneself be used in that way, to use other people in that way. I mean, I always remember when I spoke to my, I don't know if this helps or hurt, I mean, I'm obviously I'm not saying anything that's very consistent here. When I spoke to, I remember the only time I ever really talked to my daughters about sex was, oh God, I don't know, when they were, each I think was probably around 14 or 13 or something, and I said to them that I was not going to give you, an anti-sex lecture, that sex is something that's, it's really a nice part of life. There's no hurry to do it because you have all of your lives ahead to do it, and it's not something that should be rushed into, and the longer you put it off, I think, quite frankly, the better. And but I said the main thing is that you should never do anything that you feel degrades you, that there's nothing that takes place that you feel that your humanity is in any way compromised, that your personhood is not offended. And if there's you have that feeling at all, then that's not something which is permissible. I don't know I didn't know what else to say, quite frankly, without sounding hypocritical. But I really don't have what amounts to a consistent position for you on the subject. I again have both on the one extreme have been enormously horrified by gay male promiscuity that resulted in the first major outbreaks of AIDS that we saw. Also, I have always felt that there is something, more normal about a heterosexual identity, and that marriage is, in many ways, it seems to me, marriage is fundamentally about family, and yet, as I say, I mean, I've known these two people, and would I want to deny them the right to marry? And I don't know that I could say that I would want to do that. So, this is, I'm all over the map on this. I don't have clear...
And it's so interesting because you would never say when coming to your position on immigration, I know these two lovely people who are illegal immigrants.
Well, actually, I know a lot of lovely people.
I know, but that would never influence your position on immigration, even though we both know a lot of lovely people who are here illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that would never influence your position.
I mean, but I think it's also, I mean, but also is the fact, in addition to that, there's the feeling that I expressed before that one doesn't choose one's sexual orientation. One is given that by nature, by God, by fate, by whatever one believes does that. And then it seems to me, does one take having an identity that one did not choose, that is imposed upon you by nature or God, should that therefore then become the basis for being treated in a lesser way, any more than having a difference in skin color or whatever? It's hard for me. It's hard for me to say that. And yet, as I say, I mean, I see aspects of that lifestyle that offend me. But of course, there are aspects of heterosexual life that offend me too. whether it's the whole pornography industry